Hi, Gerde. I'm back. Good.
Gerde?
Yes?
Gerde, do you have any idea where I could get a government research permit? I don't have time for a lot of red tape.
You should ask Herr Übergrau. He can maybe get such things very fast.
You think? I was going to write Gabriel today anyway. I should get a letter off to Gabriel. I need to include a note to Übergrau about the research permit. I wish I could read these biographies of Ludwig. Wait a minute. Ludwig II, fairy tale king of Bavaria. I didn't see this before. Yep, English. Huh. Ludwig remained throughout his life both very bright and very naive. He was an introvert who seemed to be constantly out of sync with traditional views of rulership, money, and human relationships. The world ever failed to match his ideals. Perhaps this was a fault of his sheltered upbringing as future king. He never was introduced to the real world, and the real world failed to interest him as an adult. In his youth, Ludwig was in fine physical condition and loved to hike alone in the Alps and ride horses. He had a hunting lodge, Schachen, specifically for this purpose. Unfortunately, in 1872, a rather traumatic hunting accident befell the king at Schachen, and his leg was cruelly damaged. He never fully recovered from this incident, and his hiking and riding ceased. His physical health deteriorated from that time on, and explains why he looked so unhealthy in later years. A hunting accident? Other than his long-standing friendship with the Empress Elizabeth of Austria and with his mother, the relationships Ludwig attempted with others were nearly always a disappointment for him and a bewilderment for his partners. He would become obsessed with someone, a singer, an artist, a nobleman or a peasant, and would bombard them with gifts, praise, and favors. When they would fail to return the depths of rapturous passion he required, the singular adoration and humble obedience he expected, he would grow disappointed and cut himself off from them. The objects of his interest were occasionally women, usually ones he fell in love with after seeing them in idealized roles on the stage, but they were more often young men who fit his fantasies of the heroic sagas like Lohengrin and Parsifal that he so loved. A good example of the king's obsessive behavior in relationships is the following letter from the Königlich Bayerische archives, which this author was privileged to access. It is dated 1864, and it was written by Ludwig's manservant, Paul, to a friend. The king has been in high mood these days. The reason, of course, is a new interest. Thursday last, the king attended a performance of Lohengrin in the Wittelsbacher Theater. He came back in a fever, demanding that a man be found. The man, it was gathered, had been sitting in a box across from Ludwig and had drawn the king's attention by his beauty and his deep emotional response to the performance. The king declared that here at last is a sensitive soul. The man was tracked down and brought in for an audience. Upon my word, never have I seen any mind so in line with His Majesty's own. They discussed Wagner and France and Byron and all manner of things until long past dawn. The young man, beautiful indeed to look upon, met the king's enthusiasm and knowledge bit for bit. His Majesty has been in the thick of it ever since, and while I welcome his good temper, I grow tired of fetching letters back and forth to Louis, so called by His Majesty, that should tell you who the young man looks like, at all hours of the night. 1863? Wasn't that about the same time the Black Wolf got his entitlement? This author has not been able to learn much about Louis, but he was known to have been a seemingly high-bred foreigner, and he was involved with Ludwig as late as 1880, when he fell into disfavor. The king, especially later in life, felt a great deal of guilt about his sensual nature. His diaries are full of repentant entries begging God for forgiveness and swearing to remain pure. In many of the diary entries, he swears to abstain from sexual relations. The number of these oath entries indicate that Ludwig was not very successful in resisting temptation, yet it is also clear that Ludwig was a God-fearing man and that, though his flesh might occasionally fall, he never surrendered his heart and his conscience to sin.
Hallo, Bertel München.
Hi, I have a book of yours on Ludwig II. The author's name is Sir Richmond Chaphill.
Yes, how can I help you?
Well, I'm doing some research on Ludwig, and I was hoping you could get me in contact with the author.
I'm afraid Sir Richmond Chaphill is deceased.
Oh.
However, his son is living.
Oh. Well, is there any way you can put me in touch with him?
And who are you doing this research for?
Well, I'm working with Professor Barclay from Yale University.
All right. Thomas Chaphill's number in England is 41 20 555 771.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye.
There's no reason to call the publisher again. Sir Richmond Chaphill's son.
Chaphill residence?
Hi, my name is Grace Nakamura. I'm calling from Rittersberg, Germany. Is Thomas Chaphill there, please?
Speaking. What may I do for you, Miss Nakamura?
This is going to sound crazy, but I have a copy of your father's biography on Ludwig II. I understand he had access to Ludwig's diary.
Yes.
Well, I'm not even sure. He didn't make a copy of it or anything, did he? Or perhaps he took good notes?
He wrote down a complete translation in English. He said he couldn't make headway with the German version. Ludwig's handwriting was rather brogue, you know.
He wrote down an English translation. Do you still have it?
Well, unfortunately, my father was allowed to see the diary only on the grounds that he wouldn't publish the entire work. I can't let you see it. Have you tried contacting the National Archive?
No, I don't have the kinds of connections your father did, or the time.
That's unfortunate, but I really cannot let it out of my hands.
I understand. It was just a shot in the dark.
Very well. The best of luck to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaphill.
I don't think pleading with Mr. Chaphill will help. I don't know who else to write.
Hello.
Hi, this is Grace Nakamura. Can I meet you at the cross again?
Sure, I'll meet you there in a little bit.
Thanks. Bye.
Nothing else I can use in the biography section.
Grüß Gott, Frau Nakamura.
Grüß Gott. Haben Sie etwas für mich?
Nein, leider nicht. Brauchen Sie noch etwas?
My letter to the great detective.
Kann ich diesen Brief versenden?
Ja, 3 Mark bitte.
Dankeschön.
Bitte sehr. Brauchen Sie noch etwas?
Danke.
Bitte.
Gibt's das denn, die Lilien blühen schon?
Sehr schön.
Ja, aber es ist doch noch so kalt. Für Sie ein Geschenk von der Madonna.
Oh no.
Nehmen Sie sie ruhig. Heute Nacht wird es kalt und sie wird sowieso erfrieren.
Thank you.
It was nice of Father Getz to give me one of the lilies.
Hello again.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
Well, what can I do for you today?
What do you know about Ludwig's hunting accident?
A couple of years ago, I was introduced to this great old man, a real old world farmer. Well, his grandfather was Richard Horning, Ludwig's equestrian. Oh, he told some great Ludwig stories. Sometimes I get lucky. Anyway, he said that after the hunting accident, Ludwig got terribly ill, that he had a fever and was acting crazy. They were afraid that the wolf had been carrying a disease or that the bite had gone septic.
A wolf bit him?
Yeah, it's not so unusual. There were a lot of wolves in the Alps back then. The servants were really worried, but Ludwig recovered, physically anyway. Horning's grandfather said it was the fever that broke Ludwig's mind, that he was worse than ever after that.
What do you mean Ludwig got worse after the accident?
Ludwig always had been a very private person. But after the accident, he got darker, more crazy. Towards the end, he was even forcing his servants to enter his chambers bent over so they couldn't see his face. Horning's grandfather said his temper was fearsome. He would fly into a rage at the least mistake.
Must have been terrified of him.
Yes, well, Horning's grandfather felt sorry for Ludwig, and Ludwig hated his own violence. He was always giving gifts to his servants to apologize.
You mentioned that there were other reasons why Ludwig's servants feared him.
That's another of Horning's mysteries. There's a story about Neuschwanstein. Apparently there was a period of time of 2 or 3 months when Wagner would come and visit him.
Wagner?
Yeah. The two would lock themselves in the singer's hall. Horning's grandfather said the sounds that came from there were awful. Well, the servants had superstitious minds anyway. Some of them quit over it, just walked away.
What kind of sounds?
Horning's grandfather called them heartbreaking and ungodly. Maybe it was Wagner trying to sing.
Well, I guess that's all for now. Thanks for your help.
It's my pleasure. And if you ever want to talk again, just give me a call. I'll meet you down there.
I will. Thanks.
Servus.
Well, bye.
I wonder what it felt like under there. Father Getz said the lily was a gift from the Madonna. That's an odd way of looking at it. I'm trying to figure out what you want me to do, but I need more information to work with. If you can send any my way, I'd appreciate it. I hope I'm not losing my mind. Gabriel claims he's doing just fine on the case. He's investigating a suspect at the Hunt Club. He didn't send an address. Fine. I have my own eggs to fry. An interesting note. Seems like I'm hearing from a few different sources that the Ritters aren't the only hunters of evil around. Mr. and Mrs. Smith consider themselves crusaders. There's a group in Brazil, and Mrs. Smith says there are others. Curious. Be on the lookout for this. Maybe they can help teach me a few things. And Gabriel, assuming he can learn. Okay, I'm going to log this, even though I have no idea if it's complete garbage or not, just in case it means something later on. Mrs. Smith did Gabriel's tarot, and mine. Basically, she claims that there's this high priestess, a powerful feminine spirit guide, trying to warn Gabriel about this black wolf stuff, and assist him because Gabriel is in deep doo-doo. He supposedly got this dual nature, yeah, Dumb and Dumber, and he's going to be going through one of two possible transformations. The spirit guide is trying to help him pick the right one, supposedly not just for him, Gabriel, but for herself and or someone she represents as well, maybe one of his old creditors. Also, I'm supposed to help by using my positive feeling energy for Gabriel. Unfortunately, I don't have any, so my pissed-off feeling energy will have to do. All this involves a difficult trial, etc. Bottom line, if there is some sort of spiritual guidance for this case out there, I'm more than willing to talk to it. Other than that, I hope Mrs. Smith is wrong about how bleak this all looks. She certainly is wrong about some things, because what she's talking about doesn't sound like a heck of a lot of fun.
Dallmeier. The 1864 black wolf that was mentioned in Christian Ritter's letter to Ludwig was probably a man named Paul Godin. At least Godin lived in Prussia at that time, had that nickname, and was well connected. Godin was from abroad, but claimed to be from high Germanic blood. He was a spy for Bismarck. This is somewhat disappointing, since the name Godin means nothing to me. Guess I was expecting enlightenment or something. Dallmeier. Godin was granted a royal title and lands in 1870 by Bismarck. What did he do to deserve it?
Dallmeier. No trace of Godin after his entitlement, probably because his name changed. New name would appear on entitlement deed. Mrs. Smith thinks that Christian Ritter's letter to Ludwig about the black wolf, and her own warning about the black wolf so soon thereafter, are pointing the way to Ludwig. She says I should look into him. While I may not totally buy her logic, I can't help but agree with her. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig lived from 1845 to 1886. He built 3 castles. Wagner seems to have had a major effect on Ludwig's life. Find out more about that. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig was bankrupted after spending extravagantly on construction. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig and his whole family were devout Catholics. His private chapel contains images of the Black Madonna of Altötting, Mary figure, and St. Louis of France. He apparently had a thing for the French monarchy, but at one point had all the Louis images in all of his castles covered up. Mean something? Neuschwanstein. Ludwig was really into swans and lilies. They represented purity and majesty. Later in life, he became more and more reclusive. Didn't even want servants to look at him. Neuschwanstein. Weird. Ludwig wanted his castles destroyed after his death. I wonder why. Neuschwanstein. Ludwig studied the occult. Also, he withdrew from his state duties, wanted to be a real king, but didn't have much power under Prussia. I should find out more about Bavaria's relationship with Prussia. Neuschwanstein. There are paintings in the Singers' Hall portraying scenes from an unknown story, scenes involving a wolf. More than that, the story looks like a werewolf story to me. Plus, these paintings aren't the original paintings. Ludwig had these put in later, covering the old ones up. Perhaps I'm letting my imagination overrun my objectivity. What story are these scenes from? Why did Ludwig have a sudden affinity with a wolf? Possible werewolf story. Mrs. Smith and I discussed my Ludwig dream. She says the dream confirms that Gabriel's spirit guide is linked somehow to Ludwig, and that the spirit guide is powerful. It reached unpsychic me through a dream. She also thinks the wolves symbolize the danger we're being warned about. Like I couldn't figure that much out myself. Herrn Chiemsee. Ludwig had a good friend, Empress Elizabeth of Austria. Her letters mention a new friend of Ludwig's, 1865, and in 1878, Ludwig being tormented in some way which he won't tell her about. Herrn Chiemsee. Ludwig's notes to his servants. Pretty whacked. This was not a happy man. He mentions needing money, and he's obviously pissed off at someone named Louis, 1881. He talks about the great friend visiting, and that they aren't to be disturbed, also 1881. Herrenchiemsee. Ludwig kept a diary. It might explain his torment. I need to get a hold of this, if at all possible. It ought to provide better clues than I found anywhere else. I forgot. Last night I dreamt Ludwig rescued me from a pack of wolves in a sleigh. It was in the woods at night, and the sleigh he was in looks just like his real sleigh, which I saw in the museum. How could I have dreamt it so accurately when I've never seen the sleigh before? I never even knew that he took sleigh rides. Herrenchiemsee. After Ludwig died, Elizabeth of Austria wrote to a bishop thanking him for helping her fulfill Ludwig's last wishes. What were they? I hate the fact that everyone who might know any of these answers is dead. Herrenchiemsee. Notes on Ludwig's death, June 12, 1886. Ludwig knew the conspirators were coming to arrest him because they'd been there once before. He'd asked for the key to the tower, supposedly to commit suicide. He never made it to the tower, but was instead arrested for insanity. He was taken to Berg by carriage, and on the way they stopped at a place called Seeshaupt. Ludwig talked to the postmistress there, but no one knows what he said.
Herrenchiemsee, June 13, 1886. Ludwig and his doctor went out for a walk and never returned. They were both found drowned in the nearby lake. Murder or suicide? Herrenchiemsee. Notes on Ludwig's death. His funeral was on June 18, 1886. The whole country went into shock. Guess they were pretty crazy about him despite his bizarre ways. At least the common people were. His body is entombed in the Wittelsbacher crypt at St. Michael's Church in Munich. His heart was placed in an urn in the pilgrimage chapel at Altötting. Dallmeier says Ludwig's most important act politically was to sign away independent Bavarian statehood to Prussia in 1870. It must have killed him, he was so into absolute monarchy. Why did he do it? Dallmeier doesn't know, says maybe he was manipulated.
Dallmeier says Ludwig's diary is filled with entries vehemently swearing off an activity, but not naming that activity. Clearly, Ludwig had a secret, tormenting guilt. Biographers generally interpret this guilt as sexual guilt, but Dallmeier thinks it was something else. Doesn't know what. Could it be related to the Black Wolf and or Ludwig's spiritual unrest? It seems to me that if something tormented Ludwig that much in his lifetime, it's likely to be the same thing tormenting his spirit in the afterlife, assuming Mrs. Smith is correct and he is tormented. Dallmeier. Bismarck was the Prussian Kaiser's chancellor during Ludwig's reign. He supposedly had spies in Ludwig's household and was rumored to be involved in the conspiracy to rule Ludwig insane. Obviously, he would benefit by Ludwig signing over Bavarian statehood to Prussia. How did he get Ludwig to do it? Dallmeier says he was a genius at playing people's weaknesses. Ludwig certainly had a few that could be played upon. Dallmeier says Ludwig's diary is in the royal archives and no one was allowed to see it. The only one who saw it was a biographer, Chaphill. Schloss Ritter. I called Chapphill's son, but he won't let me see the diary. Dallmeier says Ludwig took his train or sleigh out at night because he was restless. Sometimes even the motion of the sleigh wouldn't be enough and he'd stop and go wandering alone in the woods for hours. Tell me, friends and neighbors, what do you think he did out in the woods at night alone? Dallmeier says Ludwig's hunting accident involved Ludwig being bitten by a wolf. His servants claim Ludwig was never the same after that the fever from the bite broke his mind. They suspected the wolf was diseased. Perhaps they were right. Last night, a man and woman from Pennsylvania showed up at the castle to meet the Schottenjäger. The woman, Mrs. Smith, seemed to go into a trance and warned me about the black wolf. 3 black wolves? That's a little hard to believe. I'll keep this under the black wolf section until I learn more about it. Mrs. Smith claims to not know anything about the black wolf. She says she was channeling the message from someone else. She says she doesn't know who, but that the force was very powerful. She wants to help get to the bottom of it. I suppose I could use the help, even if she is a bit odd. Yeah, and the Grand Canyon's a bit deep. Neuschwanstein. The entire castle is decorated on themes from classical heroic German dramas, a taste Ludwig shared with composer Richard Wagner. In fact, most of the stories illustrated at Neuschwanstein are ones Wagner wrote operas about. Herrenchiemsee. Ludwig supported Wagner financially, called him the Great Friend. Herrenchiemsee. Ludwig wrote a letter to the Munich conductor in 1882 telling him to prepare for a new Wagner opera, but then refused to see the man. Nothing more was ever heard about this new opera. Was there something new, or was Ludwig crazy? Dallmeier. When Wagner visited Ludwig at Neuschwanstein, the two men would lock themselves up in the singers' hall. The servants report horrible sounds coming from behind the closed doors, unearthly and heartbreaking. What were they doing? Wagner Museum. Apparently, Wagner liked to live luxuriously and had run into considerable debt before Ludwig adopted him as patron late in Wagner's life. Georg says Ludwig saved the music. I'd say Wagner owed him one. Wagner Museum. Georg is familiar with both Ludwig's letter to the conductor and the wolf paintings at Neuschwanstein. He mentioned the fable of a lost opera. If there is some music that was lost, and if it is related to the wolf paintings at Neuschwanstein, the piece may have involved a werewolf story. But to what end? Wagner Museum. Georg says Wagner would have never agreed to write Ludwig a private opera, but Ludwig's letter to the conductor shows that the new opera wasn't to be private. Why did Wagner keep it a secret at all? Could it be that Ludwig confided his secret torment to him, and that Wagner and he were conspiring together to use the opera somehow for healing? For revenge? Is it related to the sounds coming from the singers' hall? What were the king and the composer experimenting with? Wagner Museum. One of the last things Wagner was working on was something with a Monsieur Beaujolais. In a letter dated September 1881, they discuss acoustics, sound waves, and crystals. Wagner Museum. On Wagner's desk at the time of his death was a diagram of the Wittelbacher Theater in Munich, one with every possible measurement taken. Acoustics? Wagner Museum. Ludwig writes to Wagner June 1881 in an excited state, asking him to come at once and in great secrecy. He says he felt something that night at a performance. A Wagner performance? Felt what? Surely he heard enough Wagner operas by then not to get that excited. Wagner Museum. Wagner writes to Ludwig July 1882, saying he and Monsieur Beaujolais have finished the diagram. He says 8 figures are to be made from it and installed in the theater exactly according to the diagram. Wagner Museum. Wagner died on Ash Wednesday, 1883.
Hi, you just had a phone call. It was Frau Gerde at the post office. She said a fax came in for you there.
Really? I wonder what it was.
Maybe it's from Gabriel.
Don't hold your breath. Hallo, Frau Gerde. Haben Sie etwas für mich?
Ja, ein Fax. Ein sehr langes Fax. Das ist aber nicht vom Schattenjäger.
Ist okay. Dankeschön. Thomas Chaphill. Oh.
June 1872. Louis has convinced me to think matters through more thoroughly before I act. A trip it shall be then, to Shahin. It shall not alter my purpose, I feel, nor shall his compelling. The treaty is the ruin of my beloved Bavaria, and must be taken to task. 3rd July 1872. The pain gets so bad I cannot hold a pen to write, but the horror is far worse than the pain. He says it was an accident, says that we can truly be one now, that it is a great adventure. I believe him 1 minute, and the next I can feel the flames of hell upon my heels. May God have mercy on my soul. 5th January 1874. By the power of Mary, Mother of God, I swear to refrain from the ultimate sin and to remain steadfast in my flesh. Sworn by the power of the lily, Eleanor. 30th August 1879. I will not falter, but will remain true. No matter the torment or longing, I will not yield. I will control the process. God grant me strength and will. By the grace and power of the monarchy and its allegiance. De Paul Leroy, Eleanor. 10th September 1880. It is all finished. Elizabeth warned me, and I discovered the truth at last. O most venomous viper at my very bosom, O lowest of the least worthy who ever breathed, my Judas, my devil, if I could tear my heart out and fling it after him in the dirt, I would. 12th December 1880. He continues to come, the devil. I will never look upon his hideous face again. He is afraid I will tell, and I might. To destroy him I might. When I think of the accident, now that things are clear, I wonder, was it truly an accident or was it the plot to kill me? If so, why did he not complete it then instead of putting me in this torment? Could he have hated me so? I wish to God he had simply ended it there. 10th June 1881. Terror. Rapture. During W's music tonight, I felt a pulling. The horror nearly came upon me right there. Then the music turned, and it was gone. What can it mean? I must confide in the great friend. Perhaps he will know what has happened. 2nd August 1882. The experiments go better and better. W has proved as loyal and determined as ever I believed he would be in a matter of my salvation. He says he has the formula now. It remains only to put the finishing touches on the completed opera and to draw up the diagram for the crystals. Can it truly end? I scarce dare to hope. April 1883. The great friend is dead. How unjust that he should be taken from me now. Where is my chance at salvation? Why has God condemned me twice? 10th October 1885. There must be made clear funds for the crystals. Lies. Everyone lies. My own servants. What must I do? Must I sell one of my beloved castles? The crystals must be made. I grow daily less able to control my own will. How long will I be able to resist the ultimate sin? And the music is worthless without the device. Time is running out. The crystals must be made.
Have you heard of Ludwig's diary?
Yes, but no one is allowed to see it.
It just so happens that I have a copy of an English translation right here. There's something I wanted to show you. Read this one.
August 1882. The experiments go better and better. They has proved as loyal and determined as ever. It remains only to put the finishing touches on the completed opera and to make up the diagram for the crystal. My God! Wait, I want to show you something. I am not supposed to have looked at this myself, but I am here alone all day, so...
July 1881. Richard returned from his meeting with the king. Never have I seen him so pale. I was concerned for his heart. He would not speak with me, but immediately shut himself up in his study and started working on a new project. He will not tell me the first thing about it. He will only say that it was time he repaid his king. It confirms Ludwig's diary. He wasn't crazy.
Yes, but Ludwig says that the opera was completed. Imagine that, completed! There's something else.
August 1882. We had a messenger tonight from the king. He brought a letter which Richard burnt. I did manage to see a bit of it. It said something about a great night in Munich and that it would be Richard's supreme triumph and someone else's destruction. Ludwig then wrote that even though he himself would probably die, his immortal soul would be freed thanks to Richard. I worry for poor Ludwig and for us. Where will we be if his madness continues? Surely someone will put an end to it. Wow.
There's one more.
May 1883. I sent Richard's sealed package to the king, as he instructed moments before he closed his eyes forever. I could not even bring myself to care what was in it. What could it matter now? Whatever it is, I hope it brings the king good memories of Richard. He did so much for my beloved.
The package.
She sounds delightful. I'd love to meet her.
Oh, she's a hoot, all right. Just pretend you don't have a penis around and you'll be fine. Got this inborn need to rip them off.
Now I'm really intrigued.
This one time, I'd gone off to this, party, you might say. And it was getting a bit hairy. Well, Gracie...
Oh, better. Come here, Kleiner.
Detta does not speak English, but then she has her own methods of communication.
I should leave you two kids alone.
Oh, don't be silly.
Friedrich, I can't just take your date.
Why not? I didn't expect her tonight. And for some reason I don't find myself in that mood. Besides, from what you've told me, you live like a monk down south at that castle. Your body needs some attention. Detta. Zeige ihm sein Schlafzimmer.
Just thinking about Von Glau's place gives me a hangover. I'll see him this afternoon. No point in going back in there at the moment.
I don't need to go back to the Yuba's place right now.
The men will be meeting here later today for the trip. I'm sure they won't wait for you, so you might want to be on time.
I'll be here. Sweet of you to worry, though.
I'm not in the mood to communicate with the dead today. think I'm gonna get down there again. I'll leave the magazines here. I recorded some of Von Zell's conversation last night. Unfortunately, it's in German.
Guten Morgen, Gabriel. Another envelope came from Rittersberg. A request for me and a letter for you.
Gabriel, I've been busy on this case, and it's starting to pay off. Thought I'd fill you in. There's definitely something going on with Ludwig II. I'm pretty sure he was involved with a werewolf. In fact, he was probably turned into one himself. Anyway, something happened to him on this hunting trip, and afterwards he fits the profile in the lore book to a T. It's really fascinating. There's an American couple here, the Smiths. They're from Pennsylvania, if you can believe it. Mrs. Smith has been telling me all about your fortune, and she's sure you're tied in with Ludwig somehow. She also told me to warn you to beware the Black Wolf. Have you learned anything about that yet? So don't tell me where you're staying, as if I care. Really, we're supposed to be a team, Gabriel. I'm holding up my end. I've about done all I can down here, and if you want, I can join you there soon. Perhaps I'll see something I recognize from my research. I'm serious. Grace.
Christ, she's losing it. Ludwig II? A werewolf. Yeah, right.
Have any luck with that missing person search?
Oh, of course, I forgot. Frau Hogel dropped off something this morning. Yes, there are 2 forest areas where missing persons incidents are concerned. The Nationalpark Bayerischer Wald and the Naturpark Schwäbisch-Fränkischer Wald. Frau Hogel checked both these areas back 10 years. Between 1960 and 1969, there were only 1 to 2 cases a year in the Bavarian National Forest area. Between 1970 and 1990, there were 10 to 12 cases each year. Oh. In 1991, it went up to 17, then went back down to 12 in 92 and 93. The Schwäbisch-Fränkischer Wald figures are similar.
Curious.
Does something ring a bell?
If it does, I should be able to hear it loud and clear. I'm leaving this afternoon for the Bavarian National Forest. Can I bother you for another favor? I need something translated, and I need somebody I can trust to do it.
And you're asking me? You obviously don't know German lawyers.
Harry, you're such a kidder. Okay. Here it is.
Wir müssen miteinander reden.
We should talk?
Nein.
No?
Es ist meine Karriere, verdammt noch einmal. Vielleicht sogar mehr, wenn die...
His career is in danger even if the police...
Ich habe Ihnen doch gesagt, nicht darüber zu sprechen.
I told you not to speak of it.
Aber ich denke mir, dass die Polizei bereits weiß, dass unsere Wölfe nichts damit zu tun haben. Die können einen Test machen an den Körpern.
The police must know that our wolves are not responsible. There are tests they can perform on the bodies.
Gut. Ihre geflüchteten Wölfe sind keine Killer. Was soll's? Halten Sie nur Ihren Mund. Sie sind damit besser dran.
So, your escape wolves are not the killers. What's the problem?
Aber Herr Knight, er kam gestern Morgen zu meinem Büro. Er hat viele Fragen gestellt.
He says you've been asking a lot of questions.
Worüber?
About what?
Über die Wölfe.
About the wolves. Who are these men?
Just friends. I think there's more.
Was ist los, von Aigner? Ich muss mit jemand anderem reden.
He doesn't want to talk, says he has someone else to speak to.
Ich habe mir gedacht, wissen Sie etwas über Großbergs Tod?
Do you know anything about Großberg's death?
Wieso sollte ich?
Why the hell should I?
Nun, ganz einfach. Ich gab Ihnen seinen Namen.
I gave you his name.
Und?
And?
Herr Knight fragt mich, ob ich Großberg kenne.
He says you asked him if he knew Großberg.
Was?
Oh, Mist.
I think I know what happens next.
You know, it would be a great tragedy if the Ritterline were to die out. A great tragedy. I'm not just talking about for the sake of our firm, but...
I know what I'm doing, Harry.
Harry nearly had a heart attack the first time.
I'm off. See you, Harry.
Goodbye.
The American P.I.
Criminal Komissar Leber. I couldn't just call you KKL, could I?
Sit down.
How about KKK?
I'm sure nothing's changed since the last time I looked at the map.
What's the status on the case?
There's nothing new that I can share with you.
Is there anything new that you can't share with me? Okay, let's try this. You haven't found the zoo wolves yet?
No.
Have you caught anything yet?
No.
Why am I not surprised? Kind of a funny thing. I talked to Grossberg's assistant. It was a fluke, really. But she mentioned you guys took some of Grossberg's ledgers?
I told you to stay out of our business, Knight.
True. Why did you guys take ledgers if Grossberg was just a random victim?
As long as this case is open, I'm going by the book. That means a standard background check on the victim.
Find anything?
I don't think anyone's looked yet. We'll probably assign one of the younger men to do it. As you say, Grossberg was a random victim.
Did I say that? I don't suppose you'd let me take an eensy-weensy look at Grossberg's ledgers?
Absolutely not.
What if I could prove that Grossberg wasn't a random victim?
You're crazy.
Am I?
Look, if you have information, I want to know what it is now.
What information? Look, 5 minutes with the ledgers. If Grossberg was a random victim, my looking won't matter. And if not, I may be able to help you out. You get nothing to lose either way.
I don't believe you know anything. No papers.
He's being pretty stubborn about those ledgers. I've got a feeling I won't be able to just talk my way past this one.
If I can convince you I do know something new about this case, will you let me see Grossberg's ledgers?
I'm listening.
Good. Keep it up.
Aber ich denke mir, dass die Polizei bereits weiß, dass unsere Wölfe nichts damit zu tun haben. Die können einen Test machen an den Körpern.
Gut. Ihre geflüchteten Wölfe sind keine Killer. Was soll's? Halten Sie nur Ihren Mund. Sie sind damit besser dran.
Aber Herr Knight, er kam gestern Morgen zu meinem Büro. Er hat viele Fragen gestellt.
Worüber?
Über die Wölfe.
Ich habe mir gedacht, wissen Sie etwas über Grossbergs Tod?
Wieso sollte ich?
Nun, ganz einfach. Ich gab Ihnen seinen Namen.
Und?
You would...
The ledgers first, please.
Starter, bringen Sie Grossbergs Papiere herein. Danke, Starter. Das ist alles. I'm going out for some coffee. You'd better have something important to tell me when I get back, Knight, or you'll learn more about German law enforcement than you ever cared to know. All right. Spill it.
Herr Dr. Klingman from the zoo?
Yes?
He belongs to a men's club, right? And the guy that was asking about Grossberg, well, he's in that club too. Ditto the third guy, the one with the personality of a pit bull.
Go on.
The guy that was asking about Grossberg, he was listed in one of Grossberg's address books. They knew each other. In the club these fellas all patronize is only blocks from where Grossberg was killed. Coincidence? I don't think so.
Good work. We'll have the club investigated immediately. You'll have to leave that tape here.
Wait a minute. I'm already in with these guys. You go in there with your SWAT troop and my stool pigeon days are over.
Sorry, but I'm in charge of this case, and now I have a lead. I can't depend on a civilian to do my job. What's the name of this club?
The Friendly Wanderer. It's near the university.
Okay. I appreciate the information, but as of now I want you to disappear. We'll handle everything.
Sure, I understand. Good luck, Leber.
The tape?
Sucker.